I knew the country was an English-speaking one, but until I started communicating with people, that was when I realized how well they actually understand English and how well they are able to express themselves in English. And this has actually helped me a lot, especially like when I'm traveling, when I'm touring around the islands. Communication is like one thing that you need to know. And because even I've even come across Filipinos that don't even speak really good English, but with the little English that they know, they're still helpful to like point me to the right direction. Or even if they cannot help me, they can always look for someone that speak good English to help me find where I am going to. So it is a well-known fact. I would always start with a well-known fact about the Philippines, and that is that the Philippines is one of the countries with the highest speaking rates in the world. And I am from an English speaking country myself. When I came across that information, I kind of relaxed a bit, and I am being sincere with you guys in regards to this, and that is because I have no affinity for languages, and I discovered this at an earlier age when my family moved to a different part of Nigeria. And I noticed that my other siblings, they started speaking the local language like in a few weeks already, but I was the only one in the house that just refused to speak the language or learn anything about the language. When it comes to other people's culture, just for me, just leave out the language and I will do everything else in regards to the culture. I am willing to learn about the country, I'm willing to travel around, I am willing to talk to the people, really understand how it is here. But language is just something that I find weird. So kudos to the people that speak multiple languages, because it is not for me. These are the things that I love about Filipino English, and the number one thing that really stood out for me when I started listening to people talk here in the Philippines, and that is that there is no accent in the Filipino English. And it is really, really beautiful, because I speak an okay English. Sometimes my accent would literally creep up into like whenever I'm saying something. But when you meet a Filipino that speaks good English, like when they are speaking to you, there is no hint of where that person might be from. So that's like one thing that I love about their English, and they speak it so well with clarity and correct dictions. And the second thing that I love about the Filipino English will be that the tone in which that they speak in the Philippines. The tone in the sense that the way that they convey the message to you, which is usually benevolent, it is not aggressive, it is very gentle, and it is calming. I come from Nigeria where everyone is screaming, everyone is shouting, everyone is so loud. When I listen to Filipinos talk, it's just this soothing feel to it. So these are the two things that I find enjoyable in Filipino English, or whenever a Filipino is speaking to me in English. So I do actually know a lot of people from Korea, China, and even my Thai friend, Ben, that purposely came to the Philippines. Some of them are also working here, but they also came to learn English. I also came across a Cameroonian guy like 2-3 years ago in like one of the bars, and so we were like the only two Africans there. So he approached me and then we started speaking, and I remember so clearly his English was so bad, and I was like, "You're here to learn English?" And he was like, "Yeah, I'm here to learn English." He actually moved in from Italy to the Philippines here. Aside from learning English, of course, he came to look at like other opportunities for a job for himself. So because of the lockdown and we've not been able to go out, right? So I came across him a month ago in the mall, and so when I saw him, I stopped him and we started speaking, and I realized like over the years of him staying here and studying English, of course, which he came to do in the Philippines, his English is almost perfect from the last time I saw him few years ago while he was struggling to speak English. So while you guys said that, while he was struggling to speak English, while I was just thinking about this topic, one thing that actually came to my mind was, before I came to the Philippines, India is well known for its BPO industry, but then when I came to the Philippines, I also realized that the Philippines also have a BPO industry. So immediately before I even started reading so I was looking at the differences between the India BPO industry and the Philippines in BPO industry. The first thing that came to my mind was, if an Indian call center calls me from Mumbai or wherever they might be located, I am very sure what will stand out will be their accent, their strong Indian accent. While I was going through the paper, so I also realized that many companies that are outsourcing their customer service related work would prefer to choose the Philippines because of the no accent, because of like the issue of no accent. So like if you're calling from someone from anywhere in the world, let's say like the first world country or wherever you might be calling into, you do not want any accent. You do not want them to know that the customer service is being outsourced, basically. So my choice immediately was the Philippines English, because there is no accent in it. And while I was reading the paper, that was like majority of the reasons why most of the BPO companies would choose Philippines as the outsourcing country. Although I come from an English speaking country, these are some of the English words that I had to learn, that I had to unlearn. These are some of the new words that I had to learn in the Philippines, because again, due to cultural differences and probably the way people speak or a way of expression in the Philippines here, these were some of the words that I had to remove from my diction. These are some of the words that I had to replace with what I already know while I was learning English or while I was growing up in Nigeria. So the first word that I that I had to learn in the Philippines is CR. So the first time that I actually had this experience was I was in a restaurant with my ex-boyfriend, and I was asking the waitress, where is the bathroom? So she looked at me and she was like, what? She was like, bathroom? I was like, yeah, where's the bathroom? So he kept on tapping. He was like, no, it's not bathroom, it's CR. So I was like, CR? Yeah. I was like, where is the CR? So she's like, okay, it's over there, just walk through there and go behind the door. So that was the first word I learned in the Philippines, CR. And I was like, what? Comfort room? Like, I don't really get it. But yeah, CR for sure. The second word that I never heard this word until I came to the Philippines, and I also realized when I was doing the research about it, I also realized that Americans also use this word, and that is commute. In Nigeria, what we call it is public transport. So while I started studying, some students would come late to class, and so the lecturer would ask them, did you commute? So like, yeah, I did commute, because commuting, especially like when you're coming into Manila, it's really hard and there's a lot of traffic. So that is why the lecturer would allow them to be a little bit late to class. So commuting is like one word that I had to add into my vocabulary or diction or whatever. Commuting. But back home in Nigeria, we call it public transportation. Another word, this one is it's not new, but this word, I have never heard a Filipino say air conditioning complete. Like, air conditioning is a word that is like, it is usually aircon. Aircon. Like, I've never heard anyone tell me air conditioning is like air conditioning. So aircon is a word that I had to like start learning how to use. I guess air conditioning is kind of like stressful and it's long. So here in the Philippines, it is shortened as aircon. I mean, it's not a new word, but this is like one thing that I notice a lot here, because Philippines, they love their aircon like full blast on. So that is why this word is really important. Another word that I had to learn is mamsa. Here in the Philippines, when like a security guard or like a grocer lady is addressing me, they would usually say ma'am, which I find to be totally, it's like, geez, I'm really, really young. Ma'am makes me sound like I am 50 years old, but it doesn't really matter. It does not stop them. They will always refer you to as ma'am or as sir, because the Philippines is a respecting country. Like, basically Filipinos have a lot of respect, so that's why they use a lot of ma'am or a sir. But when I am with someone, let's say like a male, this is an example. So let's say we're going into a restaurant now. So instead of him saying ma'am and sir, they'll say ma'am sir. So that's like ma'am sir. So it's that word together. It's not an English word, but it's a Filipino. It's not a Filipino word either, but it is a word that is being made up here in the Philippines that you have to get used to. And then another word that I had to include into my diction is nosebleed. So this one is nosebleed for me is literally a nose with blood running down my face. That is what nosebleed is. But here in the Philippines, nosebleed is a word that is used by a Filipino when a foreigner is communicating with them and they do not understand what the foreigner is saying, or they cannot keep up with the words, So that is where a Filipino would use nosebleed. I myself, I've had to like use the word nosebleed. Like, I don't really understand what this person is saying, and I can just look at my Filipino counterpart and I'll be like, nosebleed. So these are some of the words, even though, again, I just need to refer to the fact that even though the Philippines is an English speaking country, these are some of the words that I had to learn, that I had to exchange, that I had to get used to. If you're new here, my name is Abby and this is Waka Waka. Thank you guys for watching and see you in my next video. Bye.